Welcome everyone to Thursday Night Conversations, the virtual Bible study of Kingdom Covenant Ministries. We are glad to have you join us tonight. We are continuing our conversation tonight on recovery. I am the principal facilitator for 3C Recovery Support Training Institute, where we train individuals who are looking to serve in this behavioral health field. I'm joined tonight with by two of my colleagues who are both working in the profession and serving well. The first we have up with us is Miss Jennifer Turk. If you would just introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Jennifer and I'm from Cecil County, Maryland. I'm a person in long-term recovery, which means to me I haven't had a drink or drug since July 22nd, 1989. So I've been in recovery a long time. I've been a peer recovery specialist since about 2013. And through this work, I'm now executive director of a peer-run organization where we help people through Backpack Street outreach. And we have a recovery community center with crisis services. And we just help people. And we work with Tyrell and Helu and other people throughout the state who are just trying to help people get better and live the life they want to live.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Jennifer. And we also have Helu with us. Helu, would you greet everyone?
Yes, hello everyone, good evening. My name is Helu Biena and I'm really honored, glad I had this invitation to be part of this. I am a person in long-term recovery as well. My journey started in actual recovery with this time and successfully in 2011, February 2011. So almost 10 years now coming up, God willing, one day at a time in February, it will be 10 years. And as a result, I guess, as you would imagine, my life has changed way beyond anything you can possibly imagine. Thank God for that as well. And I work with the Baltimore County Health Department as a supervisor.
Yep, you hit your mute, Helu.
Sorry, that was a phone call coming in. Yeah, and so I work with an outreach team, and we work with the detention center participants who are getting out of the detention center, getting returning citizens. So we tend to get with them about 6 months or so, as far as possible, before they get out, to kind of give them the support they need when they come out, not to go back to what we know, and to see where they are in their change process and support them. And we do go outreach and meet people where they are. Most of all, we just try to meet them where they are and keep in mind that we don't want to leave them there. So we keep it wellness up front.
Great, thank you. I appreciate both of you sacrificing your time to be with us tonight to have this conversation about recovery. So for those who have been joining us, our scripture text that we have been using as we have this conversation comes out of 1 Samuel 30, verse 8 is the text that we highlight, which is, "So David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all." So during this month, we are not having a conversation about addiction, about our mental health issues, which is a part of our story, but our focus is on recovery and living well. For we believe, as we have been working in the field and teaching in this particular profession, that recovery is possible. And we have individuals who are living proof of that recovery process for all. So we've been talking about the stages of change in order to experience our recovery. And I think I'll back up. First, week one, we talked about that pre-contemplation to contemplation tonight, our focus is really going to be on moving from that contemplation. Now that I have that thought, that aha, and we then move to that preparation stage and how we are beginning to prepare for our recovery process. So just a little bit in review from last week, as we talked about just the definitions of recovery, that recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential. And that was the SAMHSA definition. And also last week, we talked about the opposite of addiction not being sobriety, but the opposite of addiction being connection, really pointing to the fact that it is during those connections that we make that makes recovery possible for individuals because they've suffered disconnections from their family, from their values, from so many things in their lives. And it's about connecting them back. And for this year's Recovery Month celebration, the actual theme of this year is Join the Voices of Recovery and celebrating those connections, because we celebrate those connections because we understand that those connections are so important. So as before we jump into tonight, both Helu and Jennifer, any thoughts? I know you weren't here last week on that pre-contemplation to contemplation stage in that recovery process for you and those connections that you may have made, either of you?
Yeah, I think that to keep it brief, pre-contemplation meaning I don't think I have a problem. To thinking, well, maybe there is a problem, was about just the effects, seeing the effects and consequences of using drugs was having on my life. And noticing that other people weren't having the same kind of issues, or behaviors. The people that I was partying with, they weren't selling everything they had, and they weren't staying up all night, and they weren't getting arrested, and and even no matter how many times I told myself I wasn't gonna do that again, it just kept happening over and over. And those are the things, that started raising a concern. Oh man, I might have some problem, but it definitely was a process, Yeah. What about you, Hilo?
You hit the nail on the head, as I say. For me, that pre-contemplation was an island of denial. There was no way. There was nothing more important. There was nothing outweighed the benefit of using for me in that point. No matter what I saw, I see my friends that are not selling everything, all these things. But for me, just the fact that I was great, giving my body that craving it needed and satisfying that was the ultimate goal. And there was nothing wrong. I could not understand it, in spite of everybody telling me, in spite of my loved ones saying, in spite of the court saying, whatever. At that point, the thought of moving to any other place than where I am, it was worth that value. There was it for me. So that was really, really, looking back, it's like a wow moment for me. And I stayed there for many, many years, as in other parts of the stages. But, at some point, and then moving on to contemplation, was a scary piece, because something is that was fear. That was fearful, because it was a point of wow, it's like a divorce or a loved one. I may have to change something, give something. How am I going to survive? How I know something has to change, and moving into that contemplation. I don't know if we're moving into that. It was just the longest stage in my life, and out of the stages of change was contemplation, because it was just stuck. I was in that for many years, because after a while, going to prison, coming out, getting in jail, going out, and, you know, doing all these things, and family, losing family, disconnection with my children, you know, and not connecting with my family, you know, it just was a place of like, something's got to change. But hell, what the hell am I going to, I mean, sorry, what am I going to do? There was no other. And so I knew it had to change, but I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to stay here, and I'll try little half at measures. I'll do a weekend. I'll do same maintenance. You know, I'll change the way I do things, but I'm still going to do what I do. And
Right.
I stayed in that a long time.
Gotcha. So the scripture text that we use in this particular story, David has returned to Ziklag, his land, only to find that the city has been raided, that everyone there that was left, all of the citizens of the land have been kidnapped, probably to be used as slaves. And it says that everything that was left was burned to the ground. And I think it's both verse 4 and 6, it talks about David's state of mind. There's the first verse in verse 4 where he says he wept till he could weep no more. And then verse 6 talking about how distressed he was. And last week, as we talked about that, as we talk about it in the recovery field, we often talk about that bottom, you know, hitting that bottom in order to begin that shift. Was that either of your experience of hitting the bottom that then sort of began to shift your thinking around addiction and where you were with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Heath.
Whoever want to jump in first.
All right. Yeah, I think that, you know, trying many different things my own way, you know, until I hit that bottom. You know, like I would try to change the drugs that I did and who I hung out with, and when I used them, I changed towns and new jobs, and, you know, family, you know, living with different family members, all trying to do it my way. But I remember praying all the time, you know, that to God to help me. And what I really meant in my prayer was, let me do this my way. Let my way work. And no matter how much I prayed, it was like, God was like, no, it's not going to happen that way, you know. And I had to reach a bottom with it to be open-minded enough to take suggestions. Like, I remember going to the altar and just, you know, asking God to come down, and I really wanted him and expected him to touch me, and that I would be healed. And I believed in it. I'd seen it happen to other people, that I really thought if I just prayed enough that it would happen for me. And it didn't. And, you know, I thought God didn't love me. I thought I wasn't good enough for him, that I was just too bad, and he was waiting for the gene to kind of die out. But what he was doing was answering prayers in a different way through me getting arrested and getting me introduced to the 12-step program. But that was not my choice. Like, I had to go to the 12-step program. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to just go to church. I want to just be able to pray and believe in you, God, right? And that you can do this. But I wasn't seeing that he was handing me the way with the 12-step group. And it took me to continue to use and continue to have the consequences before I could see that he was answering my prayer in a way that only he knew what was best. If I would just be willing and open to take what he was giving me and be grateful for it and use it. But it took a while because, you know, I was just trying to force things to change my way. And so, yeah, I can relate to the ultimate bottom, and just thank God that I was alive at that bottom to make the choice that I had been introduced to the 12-step fellowship to give it one more shot. And it was only through those things that I did not believe were gifts, which was being arrested and having to go to treatment, for it to happen.
Yeah.
So often, I'm gonna get you, Hilo. Often in sort of a Christian arenas, there's a story that's told of an area that's flooded, and the man is on the top of his roof, and he's praying to God to save him. And somebody comes by in the boat. No, 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 God got me. He gonna save me. Somebody come else by. No, 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 God got me. He's gonna save me. And eventually he drowned. And then when he died, he goes to heaven, and then he says to God, "Why did you never save me?" And God said, "Nope. I said this for to help you. I said this to help you. I said this to help you. I sent all of these things to save you, and you denied the process." So, Jennifer, what I'm hearing you say is
That's
trust
me.
the process, even when it doesn't look like what we think that answered prayer would look like.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hilu, share
Yeah,
with
yeah,
us.
that answered prayer situation, for me, hitting the bottom was, um, there've been so many bottoms, that I thought it would catapult me into, you know, getting well and staying well for long periods of time. And I remember one of them was actually, um, it's going to prison, being sentenced to go to San Quentin. That was the big thing for me. But what happened preceding that is that I have been going to county jails and doing it, coming out and stuff. And I've always believed that I was saved every time. Like this swoop of angel come out and swoop me out of trouble, and I'm back and going. So I know it was God. Oh, God, get me out of this, and I'll never do this again. As I'm being pulled over, and I'll get out of it, or I'll go somewhere. Things of dangerous situations. God was always there for me. And then when I was locked up and getting ready to go to court and possibly facing, going to actual prison at that point, I'm like, it ain't gonna happen, because I know, yeah, God knows my heart. He knows that, I'm meant no harm. I'm addicted to substance. I try not to hurt nobody. So I came up with all the excuses. No, it can't happen to me, because he's been there for me every time. So that was a kind of attitude, right? Until the judge says, you're going to San Quentin. And at that
Wow.
time, I was so devastated and feeling like, why'd you let me down? Not knowing that, in retrospect, I was saving grace under catapult, even though things didn't get straight. But when I went there, and when I was there, I stayed angry for a long time. I stayed angry for a long time while I was there. But I would be talking to my mom, and my mom is the saving grace of prayer for me. And she would tell me, you're in jail. You're not there to get rehabilitated. You have to do this for yourself. You know, this is something, use the solitary confinement to read the Bible. I'll send you quotes, and we just do this for you. If you don't do it, being there is not going to do it. And I would call her and I would say, Mom, thank you. I prayed yesterday and I feel good. And she's like, great. And I've heard this after that many people, but I hadn't heard it before. And then at the end of the conversation, while I'm with her, or at the next time I talk to her, I would say, Mom, I'm worried. She said, what? Like, what do you mean you're worried? I said, I'm worried. I don't know what's going to happen. I had some other issues coming up. She said, did you pray? I said, yeah. She said, then why are you worried? I said, because. She said, then go ahead and worry, because if you pray, don't worry. If you're going to worry, don't pray. That she made sense to me. I'm taking power back in my own hand. So don't worry. If you're going to worry, don't pray. If you're going to pray, don't worry. Have faith. So that process kept me going through that. And I knew God was still with me, because I came out of my situation a lot better. So hitting bottom, that kept me sustained for a long time. But I have a great forgetter. I have a great forgetter right here between my head.
Yeah.
And I hit bottom. God stays with me. And I saw that was a blessing that he sent me there. It wasn't a denial of his grace for me when I was allowed to go to prison as much as I thought it was. It was saving grace, because I was able to sustain and get closer to him after I came out and in that period. But this great forgetter got comfortable again. I started doing the same thing. So hitting bottom is different levels, and it was just denial after denial, not recognizing the help that was coming. Because I can do this. I'm strong. I'm a man. I can do this by myself. I can do this on weekends only and not tell anybody. I can do it after work. There was no work after the first paycheck. I didn't realize that.
Mm, great, thank you. So tonight, then moving beyond, having that noun thought that you need to change, that thought that something needs to change. And sometimes the thought is so much not, as both of you mentioned, sometimes we don't want ourselves to change, but we want the things around us to change. So, but we have to be involved in our own process. And I want to lift these particular two verses to start the conversation of how you really prepared for that recovery journey. So now, I'm now in that contemplation stage. And I know you said for you, it was a while, Helio, of just really being in that thought. What plans did you start to put together to bring about that change? So here in Samuel 37:8, it reads, "Then David said to Abiathar the priest, Amalekite's son, please bring me the ephod here to me. And Abiathar brought the ephod to David. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all." So just a little background there. Here, when David began to say, okay, if I'm going to go on this journey of recovery, I am going to need some support. I'm going to seek some advice. I'm going to need to make some choices. So the significance of David asking to be brought the ephod was a priestly garment that the priest would wear in order to, when it came times to making a decision, when it came to that decision-making time and we're going to seek God, the priest would wear the ephod. And for all of those who are biblical scholars, I know that there are differing opinions when it comes to David here. Did he put on the ephod and pray to God, or did Amalekite put on the ephod and pray on David's behalf? So the scriptures are not clear there. So there are some commentaries that say, that David himself, put on the ephod. And for that aspect of the thought, I like, because then it wasn't customary that David would put on the ephod. So he had to change some things up. So if he wore it himself, that he was, changing the, some things up. But then if Amalekite wore it, then it really signifies that support that David has. So when you think about your own process, what was the thing that you needed brought to you in order to make that decision on your recovery process? Because I understand there's multiple pathways. As Jennifer had spoken about the 12-step, what brought you to that moment? What was that ephod that was brought to you that helped you make that change in your own life?
For me, it says pursue, and it said to pursue, and you shall for sure. That last paragraph that says, can you put
I'll put
that
it back up. There you go.
Please, that really hit home on that piece for me, because I can relate so much, because I needed a loftier goal. I needed something lofty, something that is going to just be more powerful than anything that I've been in to keep me that. And I realized that even later. And that last piece where it says, I'm sorry, I've missed it again.
See, and I wanted you on full screen, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll put it up so you can see.
No, but it says that, and he answered them, pursue, you shall surely overtake them, without fail and recover from. My life was so, that piece right there, my life was so complicated. There was so much. The lofty goal that really made me say this preparation is necessary was, there was a lofty goal. That was the thing that will move me through that, to know that I can get well. When I started meeting people, to have that as a goal, whether through all the complications, health and family, society, legal, addiction, all that I can recover from all that in a certain way, at least be okay. That sense of peace is what drove me. But in the process, for me, what I needed to do was, I did need to have some hard lines to catapult me into preparation, such as that was the precise session where my sister asked me to leave her house because I was in preparation. You know, I played games. I can do it my way. Okay, you know what? Nobody will know this, nobody, all this stuff. But she asked me, the one person left in my corner out of anybody in the world, literally said, I can't do this anymore. She says, I love you, but I have accepted the fact that God may take you from us because of this disease. It may happen, you know, but I can't have you here, because if you're gonna do something for your recovery to get better, I will do everything I can to help you. But if it's starting to hurt me and my family and my spirit, my soul, then I don't count on me to be there. So think about what you do, what you say, what you do. What are you gonna do about it? The next day, the drug enforcement came to my house, and she had no idea, but they came in because somebody else told them. But when they came in, they didn't, for the one time, they didn't find anything on me, nothing. The one time that I didn't have anything on me. And the officer looked at me, and they took me in a van, and they showed me all the pictures of my family, pictures they took of me here, pictures they took of me over there, my history. They knew me in and out, everything. And they associated this person, who is the criminals in here. They said that we're going to take everybody. Basically, my association was damaging everybody I touched, you know. And that was like, oh, wait a minute, things have to change. These people had nothing to do with the way I live. I'm always thinking I'm only harming me. Now I'm seeing in a real way what else can happen to them. At that point is when I said, you know what, I need help. I need to do something. But I didn't know what to do. And that's when I called NIH. I said, I called NIH. I said, I need somebody to operate on my brain. Basically, you know, I want the change. I need to prepare for some change. And if it means that, I'm going to call them. And luckily enough, I was able to reach them. And I came to the realization, this was not something I can do myself. That was a bigger realization. I needed to call out for help. God help me, somebody else help me. And he put the things in front of me that would help me. And I knew at that moment that doing it myself was not the way this was going to be happening.
Thank you. How about you, Jennifer?
I think that a lot like Hilo, you know, God set the stage. I believe God tries to step in on a train wreck, and he tries to gives us the tools. But my head was so disease ridden with self-centeredness that, you know, it couldn't think of anything outside its own obsession and compulsion. And you know, at the end though, and I was all alone, and I hated myself, and I wanted to die, and I was praying to God, you know, if you won't change me, then kill me. You know, this is just a painful way to live, and I was too afraid to live outside of my home without getting high. I was too afraid to just kill myself. It was a horrible place, and in it, you know, and there was one night though that I was in that place, and there was the literature from the 12-step fellowship that I had gotten when I'd been arrested. I had to go to treatment. I had to go to meetings. I never listened to really much of anything. I mean, I tried the best I could. I just couldn't get it. And you know, that night, you know, I opened up the basic text is what it's called, and I read Who Was an Addict chapter. And for the first time, it felt like I could understand the words. when before I couldn't understand any of it. It was just like mumble jumble, weird stuff. But for the first time, I could read it and understand it. And it's almost like when we become beaten, we become willing, and then God can move. And I read my feelings of myself, and what comforted me in the words was that God was mentioned a bunch of times. And what it talked about is getting a new relationship with God, because mine wasn't working, right? But I kept trying to force my understanding and application into what was happening. And it wouldn't work. So, but by having all these tools around me, and then I had the literature, and it said, okay, if you feel this way, if you're isolated, if you're degraded, if you are practicing substitution and justification and loss of control and distrust of others, whether you are using or not, chances are you may be an addict. And find heart, we have found a new way to live through a dependence on God that you learn, that you know or have, that you'll learn another way. So I said, all right, God, I will do this. I'll go back to the NA, the 12-step fellowship, and I'll do it the best that I can. But if it doesn't work, I'm just going to use until I die or whatever. But I'll do it the way that they say to do it, because I never would do that before. I made the decision. So, and then it's worked, right? Since that point, since 30, I just celebrated 31 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm still on that path that God gave me with gratitude. But talk about preparation. God's preparing the stage. He's like, all right, this is going to give you this book, and I'm going to, and then the planet's going to align. And
Yeah. If I may add to that, one of the things about preparation is, and I said contemplation was a long part, but preparation was extended because it's like, is it really going to work? The fear of, I prepare and I make that jump. Am I going to fail again? Am I going to fail again? And then I stay in that place. And then, the idea was, when I got a phone number, I had an angel that kind of saved me. And that is a person that I reached out, and I was told to go for assessment for substance use. When I went to this county assessment place, the lady said, you know what, there's a treatment program. And I've been to a million treatment programs before, but I really didn't utilize it. It was compliance. It was not really to get some help. But in that portion, when the lady said, here's a number, call them every day, and then they'll assess you and come back, and they'll take you in. I said, okay, and I left. When I left, when I got to the elevator, the lady came and called me. She said, come back here, let's call them together. I can guarantee you, if I would have left that place that day, I would have procrastinated again, because that was a comfortable place. But this angel came back and got me from the elevator and went back. We made the phone call. She talked to the treatment center. They said I didn't need any money. Insurance took care of it. I didn't know any of this stuff. And did a phone intake right there and asked me to come on Monday, right there. If that was when I knew that I can succeed at that preparation, and I can make that leap. And then so on. Met people in a different light there.
As you both were sharing, one of the principles of kingdom living that we believe is that there is a divine order in the universe. So Jen, as you were talking about having had that, I don't know if it was a brochure or a leaflet from 12 steps that you said, you had it, and just at the moment then you were ready, it was there. And as you began to read it that time, it illuminated in a different way that you had not understand before. Helu having that angel there for him at that time. I just happen to believe there is that divine order in the universe. So I know from those who are supporting loved ones, those who are allies, sometimes, they feel like, okay, I've said all that I can say, I've done all that I can do. But I just trust those seeds being planted. Because for me, that seed of having that resource there when you needed, Jen, it was there. Having that person there when you needed, for support. I just think it's so vital to making that change and trusting the process. As you all know, my mentor for a while was Carol Conquest, and that was one of the things that he always would just stress to individuals, is just trusting the process, because in that process, it doesn't always look like I want it to look. Helu, as you were talking, that fear, the what ifs, if I step out here and then this happens. So getting over that, but really trusting the process. How was trusting the process? Where did you need to be in your own self in order to trust the process? What got you to thinking, yeah, this might work?
Go ahead, Helu.
No, just for me, I think it was knowing that, coming to understanding it's okay to ask for help. When I've got asked for help and I got it, and it was evident to me, and it was real and genuine. And when I met people that I saw they can do it, and they said, if I can do it, you can do it. And I heard it for the first time as literally, if I can do it, you can do it. You know, the feeling of like, I am not, and understanding that I'm not a bad person. I'm not a generally bad person. I had a disease that is trying to kill me on a daily basis, allowed me to trust in the process others went through to be better, and that was it, because I never understood. I really just thought I was an awful, criminal minded, bad person. But the Lord God loved me. He saved me all those times. He put me in situations. Otherwise, if it wasn't for that, I would be dead, for me. And in this process, to trust the process is that when I gave willing my life over to the care of God, as I understand him, it says in that steps. I remember my sponsor would say, did you pray on this? And I say, yes. And he said, turn your will, do what you can, do the best you can to do what you want to set out, whether it's to the job or whatever. Do the best you can for that, and leave it at that. Know you did your best with a clear heart, and let the outcome be God's will. Well, God's will come, and that's not the answer I wanted. And it's, to be real, it's like, wait a minute. And I would tell him, and he said, wait a minute, but now you want to take your will back. So trusting in the process, just stay in it, do it again. That's what evidence showed up. Not perfectly like I wanted it to, but just that relief off my shoulder, understanding of trusting the process was, I don't know if that makes sense, so.
Great, thank you.
And I think for me, I didn't have any trust. It was just hope, a blind hope that this, it was like my last shot is what it felt like. And reading the literature, and I know it makes me sound crazy for people that might not understand, but this book that I had that was, written by people who were addicts that found recovery, I was just hoping that it was true. Going to the meeting, and hoping that those people believed in this. That book spoke a lot to me, but I didn't know if the people in those meetings followed it or believed in it, because people were weird, and it was just a hope, and trust was built over time, but I didn't have any trust from the beginning because I had nothing to
Takes a while. It takes a
anymore.
while. It does take a while, but it feels good.
In
Yeah.
the beginning, right? Before you even.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Woo. Woo. Taking a risk. But what do you got
I
to
was
do?
sharing with someone today because they were saying, they were in this disbelief about their next step in their life. But I think sometimes we need to get clear what we need in order to believe for the next step. So it's a Christian young lady, so I could use some scriptures on with her because I know she would be able to draw the parallel. And I thought about who we call Doubting Thomas, who needed to see the hole in Jesus' hand for him to believe. And, we call him Doubting Thomas. And sometimes, that becomes that stigma, that label. But one of the things I became clearer today with is that Thomas knew what he needed to believe and to get to that next step. Because it's not always there. It's not always, just, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be this mighty man, this mighty woman of faith and belief, and it's all gonna come. But still stepping out. Someone said, have the fear and do it anyway. Yeah, really stepping out there. I want to raise another scripture to have. And this is a little bit of a long one, so I won't read it all. Maybe I will.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, and this is from Nehemiah. So, Nehemiah, the 2nd chapter, verses 7 through 9. I also said to the king, if it please the king, let me have letters addressed to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, instructing them to let me travel safely through their territories on my way to Judah. And please give me a letter addressed to Asaph, the manager of the king's forest, instructing him to give me timber. I will need it to make beams for the gates of the temple fortress, for the city walls, and for a house for myself. And the king granted these requests because the gracious hand of God was on me. When I came to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River, I delivered the king's letter to them. The king, I should add, and I love this, had sent along, the king, I should add, had sent along army officers and horsemen to protect me. So he and Nehemiah, in sort of a similar situation, to David, he wants to return to his city, different situation, but his city is in ruins, and he wants to restore, his city. He wants to restore what's been broken down. So he's asking the king, can he go and begin this restoration project? And he was preparing himself enough that he knew for his journey, as he traveled, I'm going to have to go through these different towns, and the kings and the governors of these different towns, I could lose my life on this journey. So he had to prepare himself in such a way. So he knew both, what he needed. I needed these letters from to these governors. I need to be able to have safe passage. So provide me with what I need. So as we are making our change, we do so with both the supports and getting over some of the obstacles. So he knew the obstacles that we're going to face. So I'm going to need some resources here. I'm going to need some support here. So he was able to get that granted from the king by having those letters with him that said, yep, I am who I say I am, let me in. And not only was he able to go through those lands and get what he needs, the last part says, the king, I should add, had sent along with him army officers and horsemen to protect him. So of course, I cannot have that conversation about supports without talking about the support of peer recovery specialists. But tell me, what were some of those supports that you had as you prepared for your change? And what were some of those obstacles that you had to prepare to overcome? And how important was it to sort of have that in mind? What is the supports I need, and what are the obstacles I'm going to need to overcome?
I'll go first on that one. And I just want to say that God sent people to guide me, and they were peers. Like when I went to the outpatient drug treatment place, which is treatment like all the times, there happened to be a counselor who was in recovery and was really a peer. who referred me to the first real 12-step community meetings. Like, I think you should go to this, you know? And, you know, then when I had that moment much later on of going back to the 12-step fellowship and met people who really took it seriously, and they were became my sponsor and my home group members, and they believed in the path, and they guided me, and gave me step work and walked it through me, and with me. These were strangers. These are the kindness of strangers that supported me, that I believe, like Healy said, are like angels that were sent by God, because I had no support in my life at that point. So it was all these people, and peers are those people that show up in these key places, like in jail and hospitals and on the street, and we're just like, hey, how are you doing? Can I? And we're strangers. And, I think that it was through my process of realizing and treasuring these angel people like you, Tyrell, and Healer, these people that come out of nowhere. And I guess all, friends started off as strangers, right? And but it took a while for me to be in position to even be open to receive their guidance and unconditional love, to receive it and to, act on it. And that's why I smiled when we read that, because it's like, and God sent these people to protect me on my journey, and he's still sending them.
Still.
You, Tyrell, and Hilo, and some of the other people that I meet along the way. It's like, wow, the recovery journey is a blessed, sacred one, not to be taken for granted. And there's just miracles in every day with these people that help each other. It's beautiful.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. And for me, the supports I needed, I clearly, you know what, that's why one of the things about treatment centers, what I say, or when we say meet people when they're ready when they are, is because you never know when it's the right time. Because treatment centers I've been to, but what support I needed was this particular treatment center, this particular time that I went to. And it's we can't operate on your brain, but you can call this number. And so I called, and that angel directed me and connected me. When she did that, that was the place where I went in every single day wanting to leave. Every single day I will get up and just my skin will crawl and wanted to leave. The support I needed at that time was my counselor there, who was another form of angel, and discovered that the reason I was trying to leave is because I want to smoke cigarettes. I forgot my bigger purpose, things of that sort, because I would get up, if I didn't have this, I need to go do this and this. So she shared with me, she was actually a peer, a person in term recovery, and showed me her challenges she had with cigarettes. She says, you're used to this. Now you got to get up at 6 o'clock to do your chores. I'll tell you what, I'll write your papers off so you don't have to get up till midday. That way you won't get that craving. She told me, try this for the next 28 days. Do everything you don't want to do and don't do anything you want to do. I didn't get that, but I was willing to try it, And she gave me time to now wake up every morning and be seeking the cigarette. Do you know, ever since February, February 18th, 2011, I also haven't had a cigarette because of at that moment. At that moment, so that gave me the confidence, people sharing the strength and showing up and feeling like they're taking, really, how you doing? Really, this is, and that was it. And at 18 months into my recovery, the director says, hey, I think there's something called Recovery Coach Academy thing. I think you might want to look into it, and just directed me to more angels. And God was directing this. I remember praying, God, I doubt, I need proof to understand. Please give me the eye of an unbeliever, an eye that I can see your miracles for me, knowing that I'm doubting you. I used to pray that because I wanted so much to know that is happening, but I also needed to see. And the obstacles for me were wanting to tell people, I've changed, and I want them to react to that change. I want them to say, yes, you have, because I mean it. But then I forget I meant it 20 other times. But the obstacles is getting that disappointment and not letting them have. Wanting the relationship back with my kids right now is still that instant satisfaction has not been moved. And that's part of the stages of change for me. What I found working with the people I work with is that different bottoms are different ways. But through understanding where I am, the right things were showing up. And he did give me the eye to recognize that is help. Just go with it, And so those are, just and the NA group and the 12-step group and the particular counselor, I hooked onto his coattail, and he taught me and showed me the literatures and things of that sort. So
Great. So, and the time go by quick on here, you all.
it does. Sorry,
Yeah.
I keep talking.
So, so talking about those supports and those obstacles that are external, we also have internal, both obstacles and supports. And to raise this, we ended last week actually on using this same scripture from Luke 15:17 through 19. Where it says, and this is about the prodigal son, when he finally came to his senses, when he had said, okay, I'm contemplating it, it's in my mind now, I got to do something about this. He said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and I am here dying of hunger. I will go to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant. So here, as the prodigal son began to make those plans, so for that first one was that getting to that place of contemplation where he comes to his senses. Then, as he begins to prepare, he states what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back. I'm going to have this conversation with my father, and this is how I'm going to approach that. So, in Nehemiah's situation, he had the support of the king. So here, with the prodigal son, it said he said to himself. So there had to be something internal that he had to connect with. So what was those internal supports that you were able to connect with, and those also the internal obstacles that you had to overcome, be it fear. Some people worry about, when I go through the withdrawals, that's going to be too much. So, low self-esteem, so many things that individuals have to overcome in order really to make that next step. Talk to us a little bit about where you draw from for both those internal supports and getting over those obstacles. I'll start with you this time, Gila.
It comes to my faith. It comes down to my faith at this point in my process. But at that point, when I was in the contemplation and such, is a little different, but it's still in faith, because for me, my internal obstacles was like, wow, you know what? If something happens to my dad or mom, family member, I don't think that's where I'm going to draw the line, or if my kid that I'm trying to make connection with says, you know what, I don't want to have anything to do with you because of the past. Where have you been since I was 3? These kind of things, those are the obstacles. I didn't know if I can handle these, those were the things. But those are the obstacles that gave me the bigger loft. I keep talking about that bigger goal that I had to have in the pre-contemplation to really make it, is that all will be well. That was the internal capital of strength that I had that kept me saying, I stay on the road, stay on the path. The map may change. I may wiggle to the left, but the goal is still the same, to get there drug-free and live well, and it shall be. So I think my internal is that of my faith, and knowing that I need to keep moving. I have a bigger goal that can be accomplished, and the harder goal is just the obstacles are like what ifs, but the faith overweighs that.
And in that, and this I raise as a question, well, no, I guess I'll make a statement. But because I think it's important, um, you know, that we have the faith in God, and also the faith in ourselves. One of the things that I really love about that particular scripture, where it said he came to himself, and he says, I'm here, because he was in a pig's pen. I'm here literally in a pig's pen, and my father has a castle. So really individuals coming to that knowledge that I am worth changing. You know, I have faith that I can do it, but I am worth something. So
Absolutely, yes, and that's it. Definitely believe in himself that I can do this. Yes, absolutely.
because I really can't believe that I am made in the image and the likeness of God, and at the same time think I deserve less. If I am made in the image and the likeness of God, you know, I'm a king's kid. I'm sorry, Jennifer, go ahead, tell me.
I love that. It was
I
great.
love it. Yeah.
You know, I think for me, it was, you know, I wanted to die. And so this was, all right, I will try this out, and I will do this and see how it goes. But if it doesn't work, you know, I will die. And it wasn't about using drugs as much as it was just my whole life was so messed up. And I had no joy, and I had, you know, nothing but pain and desperation. So it was in desperation, you know, that I had nothing else to live for other than this chance. And I love that part in the scripture when it was talking about, you know, and I'm a servant of God, and I feel that way today, that anything that I am today is just a reflection of God's love. It's like I'm a reflection of the candle of his love, that and his mercy and his grace that he has, you know, given us. From to me, what I say is like desperate and dying addicts, you know, has given us a way to find some peace. And it's not perfect, but it's better than anything I ever had before recovery. Like my life before recovery, as far as I could remember, was just varying degrees of misery and despair, leading to that ultimate time of, you know, suicidal, you know, I'm ready to go. So I'd say it was desperation more than believing that I was worth it. It was just like, I want to live, but I don't want to live like this. And so when I started to actually work the steps in that program, and then feeling an unexpected relief, there was an unexpected release of misery that I didn't even think could ever happen, because I carried it all my life, Tyrell, all my life. And it was like, I was like, what? This is crazy. This is nature, and this is a God gift. And it says it all in the literature. Yep, this is from God, honey. If you just do the work
Everywhere.
asking you to do, you're gonna get it. And but there's so much that keeps us from it. But you know, so today, even in the active program of recovery, it's I know that without God, that my life will be that pit again of sleeping in with the pigs stop and being like, what the heck, you know, so crazy.
Thank you. As you were speaking, I thought about, and I'm not sure if where I read it or saw it or heard it, but for individuals who were questioned, who had tried to commit suicide and live, you know, really as they were counseled and talked to, most of them says, for real, it wasn't so much that I wanted to die. I just didn't want to live like I was living. So when you said that, that's what I thought about, those things that are literally killing us. It's not that we just want to, you know, die. It's just, you know, how do we get out of that rut of how we're living and change that. Where's those supports? Where's those individuals in our life to help us get through this? Because I really, in each of these, with David, with Nehemiah, and with the prodigal son, you know, this is not a road often that we travel by ourselves. I never say never, because it may be that person out there who did it by themselves. I won't ever say never. But I don't know of that person. I don't know of that person personally without those connections. So as we close for tonight, um, what would you leave with those who are listening relative to who are in that process and in that decision-making stage about getting connected, about, you know, reaching out? I don't like asking for help. I'll be in denial. Yeah, I got it until I'm drowning. And then, you know, it's only my fingers reaching out of the top of the water saying, you know, somebody please help me. Yeah, what encouragement would you give to our listeners this evening? Jen, we'll start with you.
Well, I think that, you know, keep an open mind. You know, they told me that recovery is very easy. You just have to give up everything you thought you knew. And the same mind that creates the problem cannot possibly find the solution to the problem. And what will it take to be totally willing to take suggestions from other people? You know, for me, I had to be willing to give up and realize that my way was the problem. It wasn't life that was messed up. It is the way that I was looking at it and viewing it. And God couldn't even get in on, you know, without me saying, okay, I really have no conditions on what these next few days of my life are going to look like if I just open up and then take the next step, just the very next step, and then see what's going on, and then take the next step and see what's going on and who's around you. And you know, keep it really simple into just this day, because God, and I'm sorry, but God works miracles in this moment right here. And he cannot write the story of our lives if we won't let go of the pen, right? So let go of the pen and show up and see what happens. Let God work.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful. For me, I think, thank you, Jennifer. That was very impactful for me also. I think that what I would say is one of the things is that in regards to waiting to bottoms out, you know, people saying bottom, you know, you got to hit your bottom and stuff. I think that prolongs people's ability to recover, and families stand by kind of, you know, I've seen it, oh, let them hit their bottom, we'll come back. That was said to me. But what I have known now is that through opening your mouth, because closed mouths don't get fed. So open your mouth, ask for help. And how, help and how, help and how. You know, what I have is found out is that through humility, God has given me great strength, literally. And so know that humility will give you the strength to ask for help and how. And that's what happened to me, because where I came from, humility was like, you know, what are you talking about? You're taking advantage of. The reality is, don't believe the hype. God wants us to be humble and believe in that to give us the strength. I could have never imagined the strength I got just being humble and accepting and saying how and why. And you don't have to hit a bottom. The stages of changes are there. Say, how do I get from here to there? Because when we're waiting to hit the bottom, it's going to just prolong agony and misery for everyone. Most of all, for yourself, you have the capability. Are you worth saving?
And as you mentioned that, we don't have to hit the bottom. Wherever you go, let this be the lowest point. Let this be that bottom.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
Yes. So just as we close tonight, I am reminded of a scripture that we talked about last week, which is Romans 12:2. And do not be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and accepted and perfect will of God. So there's somebody tonight just needs to know that you can change, that change is possible, recovery is possible. And it starts in that mind, how we think about ourselves, how we see things around us. So I encourage each of us to renew our minds. And sometimes renewing my mind means I need to get around people who are thinking differently. I need to be connected with some different, if I stay in that same setting, that same a crowd, everybody else has that same belief. In order for me to renew that or have a new mind, a new way of thought, a new thinking, I need to get connected with some different thinkers. So we invite you, to be a part of us. Come, get connected with us. All of us, I think, have Facebook pages. You are definitely invited to send us friend requests, send us some messages. And over the next couple of weeks, I will be having some resources that we'll be posting on the Facebook page in the room. I know week 1 during the Kingdom Conversation, we did post some, but we want to continue that on because there's somebody out here that needs help. And then there's somebody out here that's willing and here to help you and support you through that change. So we thank everybody for coming tonight and being a part. Right before we close out, I do want to, for those who desire to sow, they can do so. We do have our Cash App, which is $KCM Network. For those to decide to sow into the work of the kingdom. I am personally honored and privileged to be a part of Kingdom Covenant Ministries, because honestly, there are a lot of churches who are not having this conversation about recovery and about supporting individuals through their recovery. Because I want you to believe God, I want you to pray, but I also want that support. Not that I don't believe that God won't do it. As Jennifer said, I was praying for that miracle, but the miracle happens in different ways. So your gifts help us to continue to do that. And on Sunday, if you are available, we have our Sunday supplements also here on Facebook Live at 9 a.m. And then again, we will be here again next week, where we will be talking about moving from preparation to action. And then in week 4, moving from action to maintenance. So I don't have week 5 on this flyer, Bishop. I don't know why, but we will have one more week after that. And Helu, Jennifer, if you are available, it's going to be a question and answer session. So we'll have individuals who are watching on Facebook but want to be a part of the Zoom room. So you can ask direct questions to our panelists that we will have over the next couple of weeks. Feel free to join us then. And we look forward to seeing you all here next week on Thursday Night Conversations. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Bye, Jennifer. Bye, Terrell, and everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.
God bless you all.
God bless.
All right. And